Today you're being joined by me, Aidan Bruckman. I'm the Health Product Declaration Collaborative Technical Director. I've been working in this field for about 18 years on standards and tool creation, as well as a licensed architect. Heather Gadenow is the Director of Business Development for PE International. Heather is a lead AP for BD and C. She leads PE International's building and construction sector. In this role, she is responsible for developing and implementing PE's go-to-market strategies, partnerships, and managing sales and marketing for the sector. Annie Bevan, who's Certification Operations Manager for Green Circle Certified. Annie is a Certified Sustainability Manager as well as a Lead Green Associate. She is responsible for supervising and ensuring the quality of all Green Circle's various sustainable products and operation validations. She's also a technical advisor to numerous national and international organizations who are establishing new standards to ensure integrity and transparency within the market. And of course, Brent Trenga, who's the Director of Sustainability for Green Wizard. Brent received his architectural degree from Penn State University, where he completed a thesis focused on sustainable architecture and coast environments. A past board member for the USGBC South Carolina chapter and current Southeastern Regional Committee representative, Brent's passion for sustainability drives both his personal and professional endeavors. So we're going to jump into the presentation, and we look forward to your questions. We'll take it into probably about 40 to 45 minutes for presentation and about 15 to 20 minutes for questions. So the Health Product Declaration, which is a focus for today, is intended to be a consistent language for product ingredient reporting. It's also a free online tool that manufacturers can use in order to populate information so that you can have that consistent format for your ultimate HPD that you have. It is also intended to be part of the larger materials ecosystem. So the HPD Collaborative is working on harmonization efforts with other organizations, both with respect to language, content, and presentation. Initially, the idea for the Health Product Declaration came about because there was a desire to have information reported around product content together with hazard screenings and VOC information, but there wasn't a standard or format for that. We know that the Environmental Product Declaration provided information around products with respect to energy use, water use, materials and resource extraction information, as well as some emission information using the LCA process. We didn't have a similar standard for this other details. So the HPD came up, that's how the HPD came about. The idea was really only a few years old, and this was a volunteer effort that was initiated by consumers in the building industry. So architects, designers, building owners, facility representatives, and contractors came together in early 2011 for a development workshop based on a straw man idea of what the Health Product Declaration could be. We soon thereafter formed volunteer committees to help guide what became the Health Product Declaration pilot, a 9-month process that engaged 30 manufacturers to test the format and help figure out what the format should be. You'll see that we didn't have staff on board until 2012. So a large amount of our efforts to date have been volunteer. Of course, when LEED V4 was approved by the U.S. Green Building Council last summer, this also put Health Product Declarations on the map with respect to the new LEED credit. These are the 30 manufacturers that participated in the HPD pilot in 2011, each of them bringing information about their products and how their product categories would be able to best respond to these kinds of inventory and hazard screening processes. We also learned quite a bit from them after the pilot was complete, and I wanted to share some of the details of that process. Maybe unsurprising, the top reasons for participating were corporate responsibility and also promote transparency. But what we particularly found notable was that many manufacturers wanted to participate in the pilot because they saw that there was a market advantage. They saw there was an economic connection and benefit to promoting transparency and disclosure. Biggest challenges in compiling information were the extensive data required. Many manufacturers participating did not have the inventory of their product content readily available, and so they had to actually go up the supply chain and ask. Of course, that led to number two as a challenge, which was the supplier resistance, lack of information, and lack of time. Also noted were internal resistance within their own companies to participating, and also too many standards in the market. While some of the people who participated in the pilot were able to complete the HPD as a sole contributor, others had to tap into additional people either in their own company or outside their company to gather information. So although we did not have any instances where all of these roles and skill sets that you see on your screen were necessary, but there were definitely a compilation of these various skill sets necessary for the process. And finally, what manufacturers enjoyed most about participation, although some have mentioned they enjoy having a voice and wanting to be part of the process, and that's something that the HPD Collaborative has taken forward with our Manufacturers Advisory Panel, which I'll mention more about later in the presentation. Others saw a wonderful connection with people who are in either their same product category or others in the building industry sector as a way to work together. And another exciting outcome was that some manufacturers, by putting this information on paper, they realized that they had a green product that they weren't marketing as a green product. And so that they actually learned that with just because of the information that they had, they could now share details in a way that might be even more interesting to their potential customers. And this is something that also LEAD has been focused on too, the idea of bringing potential products to market that are minimizing the use and generation of harmful substances. The new LEAD credit intent very explicitly states to reward project teams for selecting these products when chemicals are known in inventory, and that also understand their hazards. So as we go through the Health Product Declaration, I'm going to do an overview of it. I'll also highlight which areas need to be marked or indicated in order to comply with option 1 and option 2 of the LEAD credit for material ingredients under building product disclosure and optimization. Here's the summary sheet for the Health Product Declaration, and it's important to understand that the HPD is objective. It doesn't say whether something is good or bad, and it doesn't qualify the information. It's intended to be a place where information can be shared so that it can be then assessed using by any number of priorities by the consumer or the user. We want to encourage that people start where they are. This is about continuous improvement. And so by having a consistent language and having it consistently documented, people can then view where the differences and similarities are. You'll see here at the residuals disclosure, there's a range of 6 options ranging from, as per your material safety data sheets or your SDS, up to measured 100 parts per million. For the LEAD credit for option 1, either measured 1,000 parts per million or 100 parts per million is acceptable. For LEAD option 2, if you're pursuing the green screen path, measured 100 parts per million is required. When you do the inventory of your ingredients, of your contents, you have options as to whether or not you screen the name and CAS number for your ingredients, or if you provide that details, as well as whether or not you provide the information for your hazard, the results of your hazard screening for those contents. On the summary page at a glance, it shows which steps have been taken. So for full disclosure of intentional ingredients, if you have the name and CAS number for every content, you would mark yes. Otherwise, you'd mark no. For disclosure of known hazards, the same thing. You can mark yes or no. And then, of course, we have disclosure notes. Every section of the HPD tries to offer a space for additional information or a platform for manufacturers to communicate additional information that might be relevant to that section. For LEED, it is required to share full disclosure of known hazards. It is not required for either option 1 or 2 to provide the name of the ingredient or the CAS number. These can be marked as unknown or undisclosed and still comply. In addition, on the summary page, the hazard summaries at the ingredient level are brought forth to the front. So at a glance, people can understand which hazards are being called out at that ingredient level in the product. For the LEED requirement for option 1, this section must be filled out. Of course, doesn't necessarily mean that every box will be checked. It's less likely that most boxes will not be, but it does mean that the complete hazard screening has occurred for the product. Also on the summary page, in the hazard section, is a place for the highest concern green screen score. Green screen is a protocol for evaluating chemicals that ranks chemicals from benchmark 1 to benchmark 4, where benchmark 1 is highest level of chemical of concern, and benchmark 4 is a preferred chemical. So because in LEED, it has a requirement to inventory all of your chemicals and contents per green screen, and also have no benchmark 1 chemicals, people would be able to see at a glance if that was something that was in your product. The meat of the HPD is really this section, the content in descending order of quantity. Here's where you have each ingredient name and CAS number, or where you would indicate as undisclosed in that section, as well as the accompanying hazards, the issuing authoritative hazard list, the role that it plays, and again, the notes. And I think that one of the things that we find really exciting about this is that it provides additional context. For example, if there was an ingredient that had a role as a flame retardant, for example, and it came up with a hazard as carcinogens or mutagens, etc., but in the notes it said, as required by code, or no alternative exists in the market today, it gives the consumer a better understanding of why it's in the product, as does the rule itself. So this section would be completed one line item for each content. For LEED, the role and the hazards, as well as the issuing party, must be completed in order to comply with option 1. Note again, the ingredient name and the CAS RN may be listed as unknown or undisclosed. To supplement this information, there's also other details like the percent weight, which is allowed to be arranged in order to either mask your formula or because of differences within that product family. So we allow up to 20% range in that weight section in order to still be a compliant HPD. You also see next to that is the green screen indicator. And here's what you could say benchmark 1, benchmark 2, things like that based on any screen that's been completed. And then next to that is the recycled content, where you can list if it's post-industrial, post-consumer, both, or neither, or unknown. And the reason to call out the recycled content is because there will be situations where there might be batch contaminants that will not be documented in the HPD, but that people may be able to then understand that there may be some additional unknowns. And then finally, if it's a if it uses nanotechnology, and this is a precautionary principle metric for people to understand how that ingredient is contributing to the product. For LEED in option 1, the percent weight must be indicated, and it's allowed to be indicated per the HPD standards definition of that range. And for option 2, the green screen indicator must be filled in and may not say benchmark 1. Then we have two other three other sections of the HPD. The next is certifications and compliance. This is where you would put in any product labels or other tests that you've completed. This can be anything from a test that helps to explain your information provided on VOC emissions for interior products, or VOC content for wet applied products, recycled content, or other certifications you may have received, such as maybe you have cradle-to-cradle certification, so you can put in that information here, and that way it's all in one place together with the issue date, expiry date, and where people can find more information, as well as the applicable facilities. Because no product exists in a vacuum, we have a section called accessory materials, and this is an opportunity for you to provide the name of other required or recommended products that are necessary either for installation or ongoing function and use. You can explain when that product is required or recommended, and then also provide a URL to its health product declaration if one exists. This is a way for consumers to also be able to have a better understanding, again, of the context for the product and how it will be used in its installation. And finally, there's an open general notes section. This is where any additional information about the company or the product itself may be provided. Now, though the health product declaration calls out hazard information, both here in the general notes or in the content, particular content line item, information about risk and exposure for that content could also be included. We encourage that level of information, those details, because they are different depending on the product, to be shared in the notes. And we also encourage you to provide URLs or other details for more information that substantiate claims. Once you have your health product declaration and it's published and ready to go, there are a number of product databases that are hosting them. Ideally, we envision the health product declarations to be somewhat akin to the material safety data sheets, which typically live on the manufacturer's own websites in the technical area. And we encourage that, and we've definitely seen a number of manufacturers have already started to include HPDs online. But you can also place it into any one of these HPD libraries. You'll hear more about Green Wizard's library from Brent. Saros has a library that puts all the published HPDs. GreenSpec, Global Product Data, the source ties the information about HPDs to the Revit model. And then SpecSimple's virtual library is a tool for architecture firms that may or may not maintain their own libraries. So they all come out maintaining this data from a different angle. And also we felt that since these tools and mechanisms existed, it made sense to feed into places where consumers were already going to look for this information. We're in the process of creating a third-party verification and quality assurance consulting protocol. And we're just finishing up our discovery phase of that process. It started in October, and these 7 organizations have all been participating and sharing information together with several dozen manufacturers who are taking their products either through the process of completing an HPD using version 1.0, or taking their completed and published HPD and having the content verified by a third party. We initiated this process as a result of a manufacturer's request, and Annie will be talking to you more about their experience in the pilot so far and how Green Circle has been approaching third-party verification. There's been quite a bit of a momentum and interest in health product declarations, specifically under the umbrella of a desire for increased transparency and disclosure from consumers. These are just a few examples of the several dozen letters that have been sent from sustainable design leaders throughout the country asking for further information and details to help them better understand the impacts of their decisions. In addition, design firms have been hosting what I've been calling reverse lunch and learns. This is opportunities for the designers to share information with manufacturers about their priorities around transparency and disclosure and what it is they're looking for. A number of these have already been held now in the last year in Chicago, Washington, D.C., Phoenix, the San Francisco Bay Area, Dallas, and New York. If you're interested in learning more about any future forums, please get in touch with me. My contact information will be up at the end of the presentation. I'd be happy to put you in touch with those who are creating new efforts. In response, we're seeing manufacturers are creating HPDs. Here's a few examples. Impro has created their dedicated area of their website where they host all their HPDs and EPDs for their products. Carnegie's been very involved and has dozens of HPDs. View, so you can see that these are not just particular product categories, but they really span throughout the CSI index. 3form, and something that 3form mentions is that this is that they saw HPDs as an opportunity for them to explain what they're doing that doesn't have to be in their marketing material. So it gives them a way of making it seem less like greenwash and more fact-based. And then Technion, who's working on very complex products through their furniture, has been tackling HPDs and already has published a few. We have a manufacturers advisory panel that I mentioned previously, and right now there are 58 companies who are committed to the manufacturers advisory panel. It's open to everyone. We also have a core committee within the MAP that currently has 24 representatives. You can see here, ThyssenKrupp is one of our members, even though they have a incredibly complex product. Their elevator can have more than 10,000 parts. They're also working on HPDs to allow for levels of disclosure and transparency to their clients. If you're interested in learning more about the Manufacturers Advisory Panel and want to get involved, again, please be sure to get in touch. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Heather Gadenow so that you can learn more about the next stage of an HPD. Heather?
Thank you, Eden, and thank you everybody for joining today. We're seeing some great questions come through. As Eden mentioned earlier, I'm with PE International and mainly focus on our building and construction sector. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the data collection and development process that we go through when creating product declarations for our clients. I'm proud to say that the majority of clients that Eden just showed have been working with PE for quite some time, and we've got some extensive experience in this data collection and development process for multiple types of product declarations. Just for those of you who aren't aware, PE International is the global market leader in software and services in the field of enterprise sustainability and product sustainability. We've been at this for about 20 years, and we have 20 offices around the globe. You may be familiar with the two leading software and data solutions that we provide to the market. Gabby, which focuses on product sustainability, and subsequently Tally, which is launching today, and Sophie, which focuses on corporate and supply chain sustainability. In total, about 1,500 companies and institutions worldwide put their trust in PE. So we work extensively in the building and construction industry with everybody from raw material suppliers to manufacturers at the value chain to architects, designers, contractors, and owners. And this value chain view really allows for seamless development and delivery of transparency information via product and building lifecycle assessment, product declarations, and supplier engagement programs. Before we dig into the nuts and bolts about how you go about collecting this information and how you go about disclosing information in your health product declaration, I wanted to take just one step up and look at this transparency and disclosure macro trend as a whole. I'm sure that all of you from, if you're a manufacturer or an architect, I see some designers on the call as well, but I'm sure all of you are getting hit with requests and facing the challenge of dealing with transparency not only from the health side, but also from the environmental and social side as well. And there are different tools to deal with each of these components of transparency. And if you look at the LEED v4 rating system, the way that the materials and resources credits have been realigned, each one of these buckets, social, environmental, and health, relates back to one of the credits in the MR system, or the materials and resources section in LEED v4. So today we're going to focus on health, which you see in orange, and we're going to focus on one of the tools for disclosing ingredient information through the HPD. So let's get into the details of how you collect this data and actually create a health product declaration. So when working on this process, we at PE like to break it down into 4 main steps. And our team first looks at identifying materials in the product. This is very similar to if you're collecting collecting materials like a bill of materials for doing a life cycle assessment. Same type of process is in place when you're creating the health product declaration. After you collect this bill of materials or identify the materials in your product, the next step is really to determine the ingredients of each of those materials. This is not always an easy task, but it's something that is required for the development of the health product declaration. Next step is to cross-reference those ingredients with the hazard lists associated with the HPD. So if any of you have created the HPD or you've heard about things like various lists that are developed to screen product ingredients, the Health Product Declaration Collaborative has a specific hazard list that they use as well. After this step, we then work with the HPD Collaborative, and I would suggest that you all do the same, but to ensure that the document that was prepared exactly follows the HPD open framework and prepare and publish the HPD after that. As Eden mentioned, there's a certification pilot that is going on right now. So sometimes there's liaising that goes on with a third party if a client or a manufacturer chooses to go down the pathway of third-party verification. So when looking at the actual data collection process, we look at this in 3 main steps. The first is to understand the intentional ingredients in the product. And we collect this information by, like I said earlier, looking at bill of materials, looking at specification sheets, collecting MSDS sheets on all of the components, and then looking at the main material inputs. The next component is the residual disclosure. So this is where things get a little bit trickier. And for this case, it's often necessary to really dig down into the process chemistry of ingredients. Oftentimes that's found on an MSDS sheet, but oftentimes it's not. Sometimes you actually have to go in and look at laboratory measurements and do supplier interviews. Like I said, this piece is a bit complex. And while it's not that challenging to obtain a bill of materials, to get down to this next level of detail can be a little bit more work and a little bit more challenging. And the third component of information we obtain is the environmental health and safety certification. So these are things like VOC certifications or volatile organic compound certifications. If you have California 1350 certification or Green Guard certification, for example, this will also appear on your HPD. And then other relevant sustainability or environmental certifications are important to disclose as well. One second, my screen. All right, there we go. So after you collect this information, the next important step is to figure out what you need to disclose. Again, if you break this down into 3 components, we have intentional ingredients. So it's required that you list all intentional ingredients in the final product on the health product declaration. Also, you need to list the associated CAS or chemical abstract service number that correlates with that specific ingredient of the product. And I'm going to show an example of this here in a minute, but there's also a field where you list associated hazards of intentional ingredients. And again, that's per specific list that HPDs the HPD Collaborative has prioritized, and then the approximate percent by mass. Now this piece is important because there is risk associated with disclosing ingredients, and the fact that you can disclose an approximation of mass of your ingredients and not the exact amount of ingredient helps protect from some of that risk. When looking at the residual ingredients, there are a lot of questions coming through about this, so hopefully I can touch on some of the questions that are popping up on the screen. But when looking at residual ingredients, it's important to disclose a list of residual ingredients that may be present in the final product, subject to the chosen threshold that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. So you can choose which level you want to disclose to. And then again, you have to disclose the CAS number of those residual ingredients, the health hazards of residual ingredients per the HPD priority list, and then the approximate percentage by mass. There's always a lot of questions around how to deal with proprietary and confidential materials when creating any type of ingredients disclosure, particularly an HPD. It's very important to understand the risks associated and create a strategy to mitigate those risks. And because of these risks, and there are risks associated with disclosure of ingredients, it's best to kind of dig into your ingredients first, determine what you need to disclose, and then create the HPD from there. But on the proprietary and confidential materials side, we're really looking at a description of materials and, again, health hazards associated with those materials. You don't have to disclose the specific name of that proprietary ingredient. So in summary, let's look at what's included in the HPD, and let's look at what's excluded from the HPD. So included in the HPD, there's a requirement in the open standard to disclose all intentional ingredients, to disclose residual ingredients above the selected disclosure threshold. So if you remember back to the past slide, it was the box that you saw on the right-hand side of the screen. And there's a requirement to disclose health hazard information about proprietary materials, but not necessarily the name of that proprietary material. What's excluded from the HPD? You do not have to disclose ingredients that are only present in the manufacturing process. You also don't have to disclose residual ingredients below the selected disclosure thresholds, or exact product formulations, or any details about proprietary materials. So let's look at an example health product declaration. This is from Assa Abloy, and this is for their Trio E door. So you'll notice on the front page of the product declaration, you'll see the name of the product ID, the website where you can find the health product declaration, the manufacturer address, description of the product, and the release date. So for those of you who are familiar with the EPD process, it's very similar to the inside cover of an EPD that looks at product-specific information as well as the certification body, etc. The next component focuses on kind of the meat of the HPD, which is the health hazard summary. And this is where you have to communicate to what level you're disclosing your residuals, and communicate if you have disclosed full disclosure of intentional hazards or full disclosure of known hazards. There's also a section in here for notes, so if you have any additional certification or anything you want to communicate to the user of the health product declaration, you can do that here as well. Again, just digging in a little bit more detail, you saw this on Eden's slide, but the health product declaration does provide disclosure columns or communication columns for the name of a specific ingredient, the hazard associated with that, and then again notes so you can communicate why there's an ingredient in your product, why you need it, where it comes from, if there's recycled content, etc. In conclusion, I just want to touch on these bullets. They're high level, but ingredients disclosure is not a fleeting trend. It's definitely here to stay, whether you're using a health product declaration or an alternative method to disclose your ingredients. There is a pretty strong push to getting this information out into the marketplace. This information is being requested through the supply chain, so raw material producers, suppliers, and manufacturers need to be prepared to provide this information while at the same time managing risks associated with disclosure. HPDs do require disclosure of intentional and residual ingredients in the final product. When collecting data for the HPD, think about how you can reach some economies of scale in this whole disclosure space, or the disclosure product declarations that you need to produce. There's a lot of similarities and synergies that you can get when collecting lifecycle data or EPD data, and you can use that in tandem when creating your health product declaration or ingredients disclosure. And last but not least, ensure that you have a clear, cohesive, strategic approach to this issue. Like I said, there are risks and benefits to reporting ingredient information, and properly preparing your organization by analyzing both of these will allow you to gain the most market advantage while reducing or mitigating any risks that may come along with disclosure. And I'm going to pass the baton over to Annie here, and she's going to talk a little bit about the third-party certification process, which is still in pilot.
Okay, Heather, thank you. And it's great to be here today, and especially part of this new pilot verification process. And I'm Annie Bevan. I'm the Certification and Operations Manager at Green Circle Certified. And to start off, Green Circle was established to ensure specificity and transparency in the marketplace, and is a third-party certification company that validates sustainability claims of products and operations. We were selected by the Health Product Declaration Collaborative to participate as a verifier within this HPD pilot verification program. And today I'm going to take you through the third-party verification process procedure, what type of documentation you'll need to submit, and also discuss some of the benefits in obtaining verification of your HPDs. And as Eden and Heather mentioned previously, this information I'm providing is all in pilot and will be finalized and publicly available by the HPDC sometime mid-year this year, 2014. And since its start, Green Circle has certified and audited over 800 products and operations claims, and that number is growing daily. And these are just some of the customers we continue to work with to provide third-party certification and auditing services. And also, Green Circle has worked with ASA Alloy throughout this pilot verification process and has verified information within 3 of their HPDs to the 1,000 parts per million level and the full disclosure of known hazards level. So why is there a need for verification? Well, all of you have seen this green information that's bombarding us every day, and it's becoming more and more valuable to have third-party validation to support the truth of your claims. We've come into this age of knowledge and education where people are just questioning everything, and so to have this backup if claims are ever questioned is very valuable. And I'm going to talk about this value a little bit later on. So as many of you are on this webinar to get some answers and insight on HPDs, and I hope that Heather and Eden and all of our presentations are helping you out with your questions, I just know that many manufacturers I've talked to are just confused about what HPDs are and the benefits to having them. And HPDs being so new to the market, it's natural to have this confusion. And there is also limited information available to the pioneer manufacturers who published HPDs. And this led to some of the HPDs published early on to not disclose information properly, as well as to have some questionable accuracy. So this confusion and lack of available information is actually why it was the manufacturers who demanded the creation of the HPD third-party verification process, because it creates a means for manufacturers like yourselves to ensure accuracy of their claims within their HPD. Additionally, as all of you know, and as Eden and Heather have also discussed, LEED version 4 has been released, and within the materials and resource section, HPDs are a means for product manufacturers to contribute to earning the building product and disclosure and optimization material ingredients credit. And in my personal opinion, the language within this credit option has actually created even more confusion. And so third-party HPD verification actually can ensure your HPDs have been completed to the proper disclosure levels to provide assurance that they can contribute to these LEED version 4 credits. So ultimately, confusion with what HPDs are, confusion with lead version 4 credit language, as well as the HPD development process itself, all of these factors combined were really reasons why the HPDC organized a group of third parties to pilot and develop the HPD third-party verification process. To note, third-party verification of HPDs is conducted after a manufacturer has completed an HPD. And as determined in the pilot process, at this point, third-party verification is completed in a desk audit and no site visit is required. So after completing the HPD pilot verification process, the HPD is actually going to create a formal procedure in how HPDs should be verified, and like I said, that's going to be released sometime mid-year this year. And the following I'm about to explain is Green Circle's draft verification process. It has not been finalized, but will give you a good idea of what the process will look like. So when verifying HPDs, Green Circle will complete an initial data collection of all required documents to validate the information within your HPD. And the documentation requirements I will discuss a little bit further in the coming slides as well. So upon receiving all documentation, we will conduct our desk audit of the HPDs, and this desk audit includes verifying per the bill of materials and supplier documentation that all information within the HPD is correct and reported to the proper disclosure levels per the Health Product Declaration current standard. And I reiterated this earlier with when showing the ASA HPDs, but all HPDs within this pilot process were verified to disclose to the 1,000 parts per million and full disclosure of known hazard levels. So after completing our desk audit, we will issue a final report summarizing our audit process. Additionally, if there are any nonconformities to the HPD standard, we will summarize this within the final report. And a manufacturer will actually have 10 days to adjust their HPD to be in conformance in order to receive third-party verification from Green Circle. So upon verifying all information is correct and accurate, third-party marks will be issued, and you can see an example of our mark on the screen here. And it will be issued to the manufacturer and applied to the HPD to display it has been verified. And the HPDC is currently working on establishing a system so that marks can automatically be applied to the HPD upon receiving verification approval from the third party. Published pilot HPDs are valid for 1 year, so third-party verification is valid for 1 year for these HPDs as well. As discussed, the first step in this verification process is collecting various documentation in order to be able to third-party validate your HPD. And again, this is a draft list developed within this pilot process and will be finalized within the published standard by the HPDC. And a third party will need to collect the published HPD, a bill of materials or product recipe on a % by weight basis, supplier information like supplier name, location, variability of suppliers, etc. MSDS sheets for all raw materials supplied, and this will be a way, all of this information will be a way a third party will verify the chemical information of the raw materials is inputted correctly by the manufacturer within the HPD. And additionally, a collection of any laboratory testing completed for the product will be collected like VOC testing or ASTM testing for, say, like a bio-based product, so ASTM D6866 testing results, etc. And again, this laboratory testing will be used to verify chemicals within the products as well. And as Heather mentioned, also we would be looking to collect other third-party verification certifications of VOC content or recycled content, etc. And finally, I wanted to briefly discuss the benefits of third-party HPDs. And I'm sure almost all of you have received those letters from the A&D community demanding HPDs from manufacturers, as Edith did mention previously. But not only having an HPD, but an HPD that is third-party verified will provide assurance to the users and viewers of your HPD that the information within the HPD is correct and accurate. Additionally, this HPD tool itself has been developed to provide transparency of the chemical makeup of your products, but obtaining third-party verification will provide that trusted transparency that you are not only publishing an HPD, but have gone one step further and had an outside party reviewing this information and assuring its correctness. And finally, third-party verification actually helps you develop your brand recognition. And this process, again, is still in draft and will be finalized after the pilot. However, upon receiving third-party verifications from groups like Green Circle, your HPDs will be listed within our certified product database on our website, where architects and building professionals can find a link to the verified HPD. And these building professionals can rest assured that your HPD has accurate information and will contribute to earning credits within LEED version 4. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Brent, who will be providing some information on where HPDs can be hosted on the Green Wizard database. And if you have any questions going forward on third-party verification, I'd be happy to discuss them with you offline or in the question section today.
All right. Annie, thank you so much for the presentation there and the handing it off. We'll change, there we go. We'll show my screen. And I wanted to obviously thank you everyone that's attending here. I'm going to go through a short presentation of a couple slides from the Green Wizard side, and then I'm actually going to take you through a live presentation of how manufacturers interact with our database and how the design and construction community interacts with our database. For those of you who are not familiar, Green Wizard is the largest repository of building product information available to the marketplace. This is a 100% free tool for manufacturers to load their products and load their HPDs into our database. There's also a free component for the design and construction community to go and find that material. So as you can see, everyone's talked about the value of the HPD, bringing it in, getting those HPDs produced, and even the verification of those HPDs. Now you need a place to put that information. Green Wizard is a repository, a free repository for that information. So I'm going to take you through a couple of key parts of exactly what we do. And we've talked about LEED version 4. We're talking about all of the health and product disclosure information. There's some staggering numbers in the market. 1.5 million square feet of building being certified under LEED in 147 countries. This is by far the driving force in the industry across all aspects of what we're involved with. Another monumental shift in the marketplace. 60% of the projects are earning gold or platinum certifications in 2012. The market is ready for this transition to LEED version 4. The building envelope and all the performance standards are being pushed to a much higher level. We've met that mark. We're moving in a great direction. Green Wizard is a technology partner with USGBC. As that driving force in LEED version 4, our platform integrates directly to USGBC LEED Online. So this information you're looking for can all be collected, hosted, and then sent all through to the USGBC. The driving forces, again, I'm going to show you some of those transparency letters, but the firms that are coming to us looking for this information, I'm sure all the firms that you guys work with, and I'm sure you received many of their letters asking for this information. The top design firms, top construction firms in the country looking for this, we need to give them a single source to find it. So a couple screenshots, and I'm going to take you into the presentation itself of the demo, but very, very easy for a design construction person, interiors, a specification writer to go in and say, what is it I'm looking for, to go in and actually select the HPD choice right here in our search criteria, which I'll show you live, and come back with that information, along with a host of other transparency and disclosure issues. That information gets to come back in very, very simple search criteria, a couple search sets, and then we can drill right into the products themselves. The reason this is so unique and the reason this is so valuable is the manufacturers are supplying the product information. Green Wizard's database is not supplied by anyone else but the manufacturers directly. You guys can come in, set the account up, activate the account, and load this information. That's exactly what I'm going to show you here now. So I'm going to jump over to our software, and I'm going to take you through a live demo of that. So this is the transparency page from our website here, Product Transparency. You'll see a list of all those building product or all those design and construction firms. All those letters are available to, as Eden mentioned earlier, I believe there's 31 firms that have issued these and a host of other ones that are coming out shortly. So I'm going to come into the design side, or the construction side first, I'm sorry, from the manufacturer. And I'm going to sign in as a demo. And then come in here. And this is a dashboard for the manufacturer side. So this is for their come in and put in a free listing for their product information. If I go up here to products, what I want to show you here is this is a sample product that I put into this account. You'll see sample product information with the description, etc. So what I'm going to do here is edit this product information, and I would go to the document section. And for you to upload that document, that HPD, this becomes very easy. Add a document. I'm going to select the document. I'm just going to pull an HPD off my desktop here. my HPD PDF. I'm going to select that. I'm going to put in a sample HPD. And then this is the important part. We're going to go into the document type. Right here we have a very specific drop-down showing health product declaration. When you make that selection, GreenWizard automatically helps you go through what we've talked about on this call, choosing the options to follow for the LEED v4 eligibility and disclosing what type of HPD you're providing us with. LEED v4 materials ingredient option 1, the full disclosure of known hazards, ingredients down to 1,000 parts per million. Selecting option 2, you're going to get, obviously that includes their green screen indicators. This goes down to 100 parts per million with no benchmark 1 hazards. The fourth one here are basically a combination of option 1 and 2. And then the fourth option is ineligible for LEED version 4. Document does not meet these options. So we want to be very clear, and then I'm going to show you here in a moment how the design and construction community filters out that information based on these document selections. For additional help, just as Eden explained, we've created a very helpful page here that walks you through reading the HPD that you now have that's been produced and pulling out these important markers on the document itself. So we'll walk you through each one of these steps and exactly see what needs to be shown here. There's also a quick link out to the HPD website, HPDC, so walking you through and making that very, very easy for you guys. Now, I'm going to jump over, I'm going to log out as a manufacturer, and I'm going to show you the other half of our software, how the design and construction community uses this. So I'm going to come in here as as a typical designer. I'm going to land here on a dashboard. This is to their personal account, or their firm's account, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to search our database. This is very easy for them to do. The product information comes directly from the manufacturers. We've also got tools to search their own projects and their own library, but we want to focus on manufacturer supplied data, where that product source comes from. You can do that by keyword. You can go in here and search by CSI division if you want to drill down to a particular division. But as a broad search, as a research tool, I can say, show me every HPD available in the market that's in our database. Simply selecting this will cross all CSI divisions. I'll search for products, and it's going to come back with 146 individually listed products supplied by the manufacturer that have these HPDs. You'll see a kind of a quick view list of that search results, and I wanted to make a quick just show you this real quickly. You can see all the supporting documents with these products, but you'll notice that if I roll over the HPD, you'll see ineligible for LEED version 4 based on the selection of those document types. You'll also see a little V4 circle here on certain ones that then show you this is eligible meeting ingredients option 1. So very, very particular. I can also, because we did such a wide search across all categories, I can filter down my search results. So if I don't want to look at every product across categories, I can say, let me just look at a particular company. These are all the companies by manufacturer. You can also filter in additional transparency and disclosure issues, EPDs, other document types, other third-party disclosures and declarations that may be important to you. You can go in here and filter those out. So I'm going to filter down just one. I'm going to pick Mohawk, and let's just look at the products they have. Apply that filter down. And I'm just going to look at the Mohawk products. I'm just going to pick the first one from this list, and I can view details. It'll show me a description of those products. You've got product images to carousel through, detailed performance attributes listed here and supplied by Mohawk, sustainability information, chemicals of concern, full disclosure, there's no chemicals of concern, manufacturing, location, extraction, third-party certifications, and then the documents that are supporting this. This is where that document shows up that the manufacturer supplied. The unique part about that is you can actually, the design and construction firm can pull that right down from our site. They're not going out to other third-party groups or back to the manufacturer's website. It's collected right here in our database. You'll see, as we've talked about this whole presentation, here's all the HPD information available right at your fingertips. The design and construction firm then can utilize this in a green summary takeaway. They can generate a PDF that they can share with others at the firm, at their project level, whatever that may be. You've got a PDF cutaway. Again, you've got the hot links back out to those supporting documents if need be, summarizing all the information listed here in GreenWizard, even their LEED credential information, the LEED credit information. And then they've got 2 additional options as part of the workflow. They can use this HPD information. They can add these products to a firm library in a digital format that's kept up to date and live from your data, or they can drop this product information into a project and continue tracking it through the life cycle of the project. Our lead V4 tools support the differences and the discrepancies of HPDs that are V4 compliant, along with the other MR credits in the tracking tools, and then, as we talked about earlier, submitting that information directly to Lead Online from our application, keeping this all under one umbrella. So that's what I wanted to show on the application side, and I'm going to take us through and end on the contact information. I'm going to pass it over to Eden for the very end of the presentation for her for some Q&A.
Thanks, Brent. Actually, I think Heather is going to be moderating and curating a question.
Yes, I will. There's been a tremendous amount of questions, which is great, and a lot of very good questions about the technical, deep dive behind the health product declaration. So if we don't get to your question today, we will reach out and answer the questions that you have. We do only have a few minutes left, so I tried to group things group questions into themes. The first theme was around the mechanism or process to ensure that the HPD is credible. So we have one question regarding the mechanism or process that exists to audit the HPD and potentially submitted before it is considered legit or dependable, and to ensure the credibility of the HPD standard. Is this what the 7 entities such as SCS, UL, PE, Green Circle are formulating as we speak? And then another question regarding the third-party process, wondering if the process that I described when walking through how PE helps clients is different than what is being described by Green Circle. So I'll touch on that briefly and then open it up to the group. So PE International does not certify or verify documentation. You may have seen our signature on life cycle assessment verification. We do critical reviews of LCAs, but when it comes to general certification and verification, that is not in PE's suite of capabilities. We help manufacturers prepare these types of documents. So the process that you saw on my screen was really digging into the how of creating and collecting information, creating an ingredients disclosure documentation. And then what you saw on Annie's screen was more the certification process. So Annie, I'll pass that on to you.
Sure, yeah, and I could say that the verification process was created to make sure that your HPD is correct and accurate. So before going forward and completing your HPD, you could contact a third party to get it verified to ensure the accuracy of your claims. And then in terms of the standard, I think I would refer that to Eden to answer that question on how that's sort of being verified and ensure that that's correct as well.
Sure. So as far as the HPD self-publishing HPD goes, we are really committed to making sure that the quality of self-published HPDs continues to grow over time, and that we can build in mechanisms to help manufacturers so that self-published HPDs are credible in the marketplace and continue to be credible in the marketplace. One of the reasons that we moved to the online builder was to help that process. It allows for things to be automated so that as you're filling in information, the hazards are automatically being screened and are automatically populating for you, for example. It allows for things like if you are not providing all ingredient names, so that the checkbox in the summary on intentional ingredients is not checked, for example. So that both little things and larger things. In addition, one of the reasons that we're excited about having the online builder is that in the years to come, we are planning to build in these mechanisms so that it can screen through published HPDs and look at the details within particular product categories. So if your product is being entered into an HPD and you're going to the review panel and you don't have an ingredient that, let's say, 74% of all other products in your product category do have with published HPDs, it will prompt you and say 72% or 74% of other of other products in your category have this ingredient, do you? And so trying to figure out ways to make this a smart tool that helps with quality assurance. In addition, part of this protocol development that we're working on with the 7 agencies is not only for verification, but it's also built into the consulting aspect as well as just understanding quality assurance. So those details will be pushed out to manufacturers for education purposes to help in-house practices as well.
Great, thank you, Eden. We also had a lot of questions around residuals. What does a residual ingredient mean? How do you identify residual ingredients? How do you obtain data on residual ingredients? So if we could take a few minutes and just talk about a few examples of residual ingredients, I think that would be helpful to the audience. And those of you who had more detailed questions about the residual ingredients, we can get back to you when we have more time or via email.
Sure. So the HPD is reporting product ingredients as delivered for end use. So one way to think about this is that about residuals is that a process chemistry is happening at the factory. So let's say you have chemicals that are added to the product that undergo reaction in the factory to form a new substance. In this case, you would list the resultant substance as an intentional ingredient in the HPD, and the initial chemicals that were used, if you have proof that there is no, either through testing, et cetera, that there are no residuals remaining from that reaction, you would not need to list them. But if you have, if you can't assume that there's been a complete reaction, you would list those individual chemicals as residuals if they're going to be present in the levels that you're indicating under residuals disclosure.
Thanks, Eden. And do you have any examples of residuals that have been disclosed on HPDs?
Gosh, there are a number of those. I don't have a specific HPD to point to, but we've definitely seen that people are itemizing their residuals, and they're typically coming in at the bottom of the HPD in that second section under content because they are going to be typically in the lowest quantity or in that lower quantity echelon there.
Okay, great. And there were also a lot of questions around the hazards. So how is the hazard list developed? How do we determine what is a hazard? Could one of you speak to that as well?
Well, hazards were developed, the hazard screenings were developed using authoritative hazard lists that were initially drawn from the green screen protocol. You can actually go to the HPDcollaborative.org website, and under Use HPD, you can see a complete list with links to all of the priority hazard lists that are there and the organizations that created them. A benefit of using the builder is that when you type in an ingredient, either by its name or its CAS number, the hazards will automatically screen for you, pulling all that data from the lists already there. So you don't have to actually go and look up every index.
Great, thank you. And here's a question for Brent. Can Green Wizard provide analytics of how many designers are searching specific products?
Sure, thank you for the question. So we do give basic analytics. Actually, there's two different platforms from the manufacturers, a basic analytics and an advanced analytics. There are basic analytics given for the number of products in there that their listing has been found in, how many times they've been clicked on, how many times they've been added to information, to a project or to a library of sorts. So they do get some feedback from our user base of what's going on, what kind of activity those products are getting. Absolutely.
Great. And I know we're running out of time here, so, or we're over time, I should say, so I'm going to speed this up and just ask one or two more questions. But I did want to point out another theme that's coming through in the questions. There's a lot of discussion on the question board about the use of hazard versus the use of risk. And I think that's definitely something that requires further discussion. And I encourage all of you to reach out to me or Eden or those in the industry that are working on this challenge to dig deeper into that subject. Okay, and we do have some questions around what types of material manufacturers are producing HPDs, specifically if we're finding that raw material suppliers are developing their own HPDs. I can take a first stab at answering that and then open it up to the group. We are seeing from the PE side raw material suppliers developing HPDs or other types of ingredients disclosure mechanisms to communicate their information to the manufacturers that are purchasing from them. So this has been a trend in a few product categories, and I think that that will continue, and it will allow for more easy dissemination of information throughout the value chain.
We are also seeing that trend, and we're encouraging that through the development of something that we're currently calling the HPD binder, and that's an opportunity to actually compile HPD when you have a complex product. For example, like furniture, where you're going to be assembling, in many cases, finished, something that could also be seen as a finished product. Like a workstation will have MDF, and MDF could in and of itself have an HPD. So we are working on ways to compile that so that there's also that accountability in the supply chain, so that as you have a component, it could then be, if that component gets updated, it can also automatically update the HPD. We do have this in beta right now. You'll see in the HPD builder a question when you're creating a new product: can this product be used as a component in other products? And that's a beta that we're testing right now in order to help smooth the transition into the opportunity for these kind of streamlined processes.
Great, thank you. And we'll take one more question. So there's been another cluster of questions asking about the demand for HPDs beyond LEED. So one of the specific questions are, what areas are dovetailed with HPD beyond LEED, i.e. where else can we, the manufacturer, get credit for producing and developing a health product declaration?
Actually, go ahead.
No, please jump in.
One thing we're seeing from the customer base, as we referenced all those letters, those transparency and disclosure letters, this is becoming a standard practice. Not just, it has really no bearing if the project is going for LEED certification or not. Many firms are demanding and setting deadlines that that product manufacturers produce this transparent disclosure and HPD information so that they will be continued to be used on their firm, within their library, within their spec sections of their projects. Some firms have taken a very stiff line of setting up, within the end of this year, if that information is not available, they will be no longer available to work with them as a design firm. So that is a practice across the design firm, not just a LEED-specific component.
We're also seeing interest from government agencies and others who are setting up procurement policies broadly, looking at HPDs as a way to offer that consistent language to them when they're asking questions around procurement. So we're also seeing it as a tool for other tools, and not just for reporting or documentation around LEED.
And I can also comment on that just briefly, that I know a lot of the manufacturers we've worked with were not getting attention from architects and design firms previously to publishing HPDs. And then after having HPDs, they were able to get in front of various architects and design firms that weren't even looking at their products before. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here beyond LEED version 4.
The only other thing I would add to that is if you're looking at this from a global perspective, the information that you collect to create an HPD or a type of ingredients disclosure can help you understand and meet certain global regulations, reporting criteria, etc. So while the HPD itself might only be concentrated with LEED v4 and mainly used by architects and designers in the North American market, there is this global aspect to transparency, particularly ingredients disclosure and environmental reporting, that can be leveraged when you're collecting the information to create this documentation.